Welcome. This is to part number 2 of the ThingWorx security stuff. I want to add to mention this is all my personal experience. So even if I'm a PTC employee, this is not PTC official trainings or whatever. So if you want to discuss this, you can discuss this with me personally. And please don't call the tech support about this one. Anyhow, I will give my best that the information I give to you is up to date and correct and will bring value. In the first video, if you haven't seen this already, I really suggest you that you start with this one because I want to take this video as a start. And now moving on to more complicated security settings and also to dig a bit deeper into the options and possibilities, how the system works internally. Additionally, I want to don't make it longer than half an hour and let's see where we can go. So we have set up last times these different organizations and user groups. So if you remember, we have in these 3 user groups. We haven't used the users so far, so this will be done today. And we have set up the developers and the admin groups. We removed some of the rights, and now we are in the position where we have to grant access to some of the objects again, because now everything is closed, and it will be now very difficult to create any applications because there is no right for the users at all, and we have to bring back this kind of access control. So what we need to do first is showing here the PowerPoint is we have to bring back visibility on the systems objects. So there are some systems objects in the system for media files, for shapes and so on. And from my point of view, it makes sense that for the systems object, everyone has access. So I will use the everyone organization here to give access to these groups, and it's very easy to do. So you go into the permissions tab, entities, and if you are on this entity tab, you have the option here to select a different kind of object types. Or what you can see, these are modified by date. So you can see, okay, here is where I started later on. You see here, these are my audit files. And here from the solution central up to the end, just selecting show system objects. So this is important. So again, up from the let's go here from the subsystem. So this should be my first entry down to the end. All of these objects over here I'm selecting are edit the permission and give everyone view rights on these objects. So they can't delete or change it. It's just the view right. And here are many of the objects like the translation tables and so on. And this will give them view rights on this one. Here also some kind of log files. We can discuss later on, it makes sense. I just want to make it a little bit easier for you so that you can start in, and this is why we say, okay, give everyone of these system objects, most of them are images and definitions. It makes absolutely sense to say these users should have view rights on this one. So that's the first one. And then the second one, I already have done this because now this is the reason why I'm skipping it. The second one is there are some object types that are really important to work on it. And these object types, just let me zoom in a little bit, are like the data shapes. There are some mesh-up templates that you're using, some media file styles definition. And here it is essential that all users, and I would really say all users, so all users on the platform have read access to these objects. So otherwise you would get sometimes no error message, or you get error messages that you have no access to these kind of objects. So I would, for a typical installation, say it makes sense to putting these files over here. So if you go to the media files, just for example, how to do it, You say, I want to go to my entities, selecting here the media files. Where are my media files? Media, over here. Say, I want to see my systems objects. And then select all, edit permission, and give all users here read permissions on the objects. And then they can at least read these objects. They are used for applications one, and this just make it easier that you can access this one. So let me close this one. Okie dokie. And you have to do it with several of these files. So you see I have just style themes and state definitions and localization tables. So at least these ones are required. Now, if you're creating your first application, and I just did this one, I make a small mashup to show something. So this is a very small mashup. I say this is my permission inherit mashup. And this mashup just show a little grid. And I say later on what's here in with this one. So it's a very, very simple mashup. And I give permission to my organization to view it. And very, very important is you have to also define read permissions on the ACME users, because otherwise you can't, the users cannot work with the mashup. So it's very, very essential that you give read access to your users. And then let's see what the user can see if he accesses this mashup. So we're going here on this user, and we see an empty white page. So there is something wrong. So something is missing. Very easy. There is a monitoring, and there is an application log. And if you click on this application log, I don't know, sometimes you have to hit Control F5. Now you see the user is not authorized to get all state definitions on platform subsystems. So we have some subsystems and resource files, and it is this way that there are some services that are really essential for nearly every application. And if you don't have access to this one, you need grant access to this one. What I did already for you to make it a little bit more convenient, there are some general services. So it's on the platform system. It's services like get all state definitions, get style definitions. And here you should, everyone should have read access. This is what we done before. That's all should already be set. But you have to give on these three services all users execute rights. Otherwise, it doesn't make fun. Then if you're just hitting F5 again, you see that also on current session info, on the global session values and get current user extensions, you need execute rights to execute the service. And you also see that on the get effective tokens on a resource, it's called runtime localization functions, you need the service execute rights so that the user can access this one. So let's see why it doesn't work. So on the platform subsystem, we have get all state definitions. So just copy this one. Then I browse to my subsystem, and here I have my platform subsystem. Going to the permissions, runtime permissions, and you see there are already runtime permissions defined. So I'm searching for get all state definitions. And here you see the composer user has this right, but the user has this right denied. So normally this is empty. I just make it easy and okay, now I want to have this service execute rights for the users on this get all state definitions. I have to save it. And now if everything is fine and I'm going here and hit the F5 button, I should see at least my table, and the table is empty. And now we are coming to the content of this exercise to give you more insight about templates, security, inheritance, and so on. So now we dig in, and we will use this application to see what we get and what we don't get. So going back to ThingWorx and give you an idea what I have defined. So just making a little bit more preparation right now, so I think it will be a bit easier. So what I did is I created a new template. This is called generic level 1. And guess what? This generic level 1 is based on the generic thing. And it's just another template. And from the property side, I've created one property. It's called level 1 property. And I have set the permission to the ACME organization. So the ACME organization should see this template. I tell you the reason why in a second. And there's also this icon over here, instance of the entity. We are talking later on. On the runtime, you see that our MCN developers, they have full access to the object. And we see that there is something called get implemented thing with data, where our user group also has the service execute rights. Why? I will tell you in a second. So first thing you should remember is this template is based on the generic one. Now, why is it called level 1? Because there's a level 2. So I have a generic level 2. This is based on generic level 1. And here is nothing defined. Yeah, so it's I just inherit everything, and on the permission, this is empty, this is empty, this is empty, this is empty. So nothing is defined on this one. And that's the reason why I want to tell you a little bit about inheritance and so on. So now to make it a little bit more interesting, I have defined two things, thing level 1 and thing level 2. And for sure, thing level 1, this is based on the level 1 generic template, and thing number 2, this is on the second level. Yeah. So if you want to have it a little bit more in an overview, you can take the relationship editor and use this view this one, relationship, use this entity. Okay, now you see it in the tree structure. So this is my template, and this thing uses this template. Then I have another template based on this template, and level number 2 thing uses this template. Yeah, why I creating these hierarchy? Because I want to give you some insight about the ability to inherit permissions and maybe not to inherit permissions. So first, I'm here the administrator. So you see I have defined on generic level 1 access control for the team. On level 2, there is no access control. Now let's log in as a composer user. So just open a new one. So going in as my user composer. Here we are. And if I go on the Think templates, as a composer, as a non-administrative user, I only see the generic level 1. So first, what we learn is on the template level, there is no inheritance of access control to templates that are derived from this one. Yeah, so if the access control would be derived to the template level 2, I should see this one, but this is not happening here. Yeah, so I only see one. So we must say, okay, on the template level, there is no inheritance. Yeah, so I have to go to level 2 and do the same on the permissions and say, okay, my ACME organization should see the template. And at design time, my ACME developers are able to read, update, and delete the files. And now if I'm going back here, I see, now I can see both one. So there is no inheritance of the template. But the template is made to create things out of it. And now it's getting interesting. So if I go into my, I just close this window again. So if I now going to my template number 2, in the permission tab, I can say who should see entities of these object. Yeah, and I say, okay, my complete ACME organization should see entities. So going again and logging in as my user. You remember it was empty just a second before. And now my user can see from the level 2 the item. So he sees the item, the thing, level 2. This is what here. So this is exactly what we're expecting. Yeah, because we have changed on the generic level 2 and say, okay, you can see this one. I remove it again. And now going to the template level 1. So this is the template over here. And changing the permission same way. Say, okay, the instances of this level 1 should be visible by the ACME organization. Going back over here, hitting the F5 key, and now I can see both things. Yeah, so I cannot see only the thing from level 1. I can also see the things of level 2. So this is really important, yeah, because this is a different to the templates, because here on the instance visibility, this is inherited. Yeah, so everything that is based on the generic level 1. So how many templates are in between? If I create a thing, this thing inherits the visibility permission from this object. If I now say, okay, this is from level 1, the information. If you take a look on here, you see the description already. You don't see the properties, yeah, and you don't see on which template it was based. So these information seems to be still hidden, even if you have visibility to the object. And I'll show you just in a second how you can overcome this one. So if you say now on runtime, and I go to level 2 because then it's easier that you see the difference. Yeah, so I go to the template on level 2, and so I hopefully only change the level 2 thing, and say, okay, I want to have runtime permissions on the entities. This is really important. So on the entities, I want to have that my ACME users now can read the properties. Yeah, and if I'm now hitting F5, you see the difference. Yeah, so you see now here you can see the property and you can see on which template it was based. So this is also a property. Yeah, so here now it's very important that you can see that this information is inherited from the template, and you can also define the access control on different levels. You have seen that in the original template, so in the template level 1, I created some access control regarding users for the implementing things with data. And I also say this template should be visible to the organization. Why I made this one? This is because of the mashup I have created. Yeah, so I want to show you how this small mashup over here, this is the mashup that we are using to show the things. And what I have done over here, just very simple, maybe simple, maybe not. So what I have done over here, I have said, okay, I want to access a template, and this is my generic level 1 template. Yeah, and you see, I want to access this template, and I want to use the service get implemented with data. And now you see why I'm needing these two access rights. Yeah, so I need the visibility on this object, and I need additionally the execute right on this service, because otherwise this service don't execute and don't give me back, for example, here all data, where I can see these are all the items with the properties and so on. Yeah, and you see that also if you call in the service, what you see, even if you call it with one service, what you see is really based on the object. Yeah, so if the access control on one object is different than the access control on the other object, this is all maintained, and you don't get any confusion over here. Okie dokie. This will close the session just in a second. Here on the runtime permissions, in the last sessions, you have seen that we have this property rewrite and on all property services and events. Here at the bottom, this is something that we haven't opened last time. You see that you have also control over every service and every property of the thing. Yeah, so what you can do is just for example, just say, okay, just remember, here we can see the level 1 property and the thing property, because we have grant access on the template. Now I say, no, this test property, only this one, I don't want to see. So I want to change it on the item level 2. And I'll give you now the way how to do it. And it's very simple. So you go to the item level 2, you go to permissions, going to runtime permissions and say, okay, I want to have exactly on the property, and this is a property level 1 property, I want to have these users, where is it? Users, this group, I deny the right to see this one. Yeah, so I can fine granularly say on this property, please, this should be hidden to the user groups. I don't want them that they see it. And if you define a deny, this always override any allowance. So deny is always higher prioritized. So going back to the one, clicking on this level, and you see the test property, this is now empty, but the thing template property is still shown. Yeah, and so you can really fine granular define access control on what you see and what you don't see. If you understand what I did so far, you also understand what I'm not doing. Now I'm going back on my level 1, yeah, on the permissions, and I say, okay, I want to have a runtime permission on the I want to have a runtime permission on the property. Yeah, so on the properties, generic level 1. Why do I don't see the properties? Good question. At least I should see my... for sure I can't see my properties because I'm in the template. So this was my fault. So I have to go on the instances. Yeah, now I have properties. And now I say I want to have on the property level 1 property, I want to have that the users group have read right on this property. Save. Done. Now going back to this one. Question, what will happen? You will see I'm setting level 1. Now I can see this property because I've explicitly enabled this one. I can't see this one. And on this object, I have a deny right and say, okay, this is denied. And that's the reason why I can't see it here anymore. Yeah, if I remove the deny write, yeah, going back to my thing on the permission tab and say, okay, this deny, just inherit it. In this case, it should be back, just hitting F5 and you're getting back your properties. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much so far. If I get more information, I will share. And yeah, please, if you have questions, post it in the comments, and see you soon. Bye-bye.